So guess how many deaths were caused by alcohol that same exact year?
Well, I can't imagine. I'm going to wait for your number.
3 million. So
Oh my God.
almost double the amount of COVID deaths.
Alcohol kills more people than any of those other substances. Okay. Cirrhosis of the liver, whatever. I think if you do your research, I think I'm hoping quoting it right, but I've heard this from physicians that literally alcohol long term is a huge killer of people. Okay. Whether it's through automobile accidents, it's jumping off cliffs, or it's whatever it is that they're doing.
The scientific word for alcohol is ethanol, and it is the byproduct of rotten fruits and vegetables. That's what we're consuming whenever we see alcohol by volume on the bottles and cans and everything like that. You can literally, I do it all the time, even with the best of the best wines I see out there, like Camus, Napa, all this stuff. I literally put my finger on the bottle where the 13% ethanol by volume is. And instead of alcohol by volume, ABV, I'll be like, oh my gosh, there's 13% ethanol.
And after drinking moderately, responsibly, and socially for 20 years, he too became addicted to alcohol. He overcame his addiction at the age of 48 and has since been helping others overcome their addictions. And I think that's where all of Dustin's energy lies. Welcome to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Well, welcome back to Inside Personal Growth for another episode. And joining me on the other side of the screen is Dustin Dunbar. And Justin actually happens to live very close to me. That's not always the case, but he's in a little city called Solana Beach, and I'm in a little city called Encinitas, and we're maybe 5-6 miles apart from one another, huh?
Yeah,
something like that.
that's it.
That's it.
We could high five each other.
Yeah. And he's got a new book out called You're Doing Great and Other Lies Alcohol Told Me. And there's more to his story than that, but there's a lot in that story. And that's what we're going to be talking about. And I'm going to let our listeners know a little bit about you. And for my listeners, if you want to learn about the book, the revolution that he's doing, and so on, there's 2 websites. One of them is the nonprofit or the ORG website called thealcoholfreerevolution.org, thealcoholfreerevolution.org, and we'll put a link to that as well, Dustin. And then the other one is just Dustin-Dunbar.com, and there you'll learn more about Dustin, the book, what he's up to, and how he got where he is today. So I'm going to tell him a little bit. He grew up in Midwest America with an abusive, alcohol-addicted father and grandfather, and vowed to never be like them. Devouring books on psychology and researching addiction in his 20s, Dustin earned a doctorate in psychology and believed at that time he had broken his family's chains. And Dustin, I'll just say this, I have a degree in spiritual psychology. And when you look at the enneagram, or not the enneagram, but the historygram of repeating alcoholism in a family, it actually sometimes skips a generation, as you know, but then it goes to the next generation. And in my family, I was lucky. I got the one that kind of skipped it. But we had the same issue. And in 2009, Dustin was handpicked by Ryan Seacrest for LA Shrink. It was a production that Dustin finally told me never actually made the airwaves, but he was in that. And he did all the pilots. And after drinking moderately, responsibly, and socially for 20 years, he too became addicted to alcohol. He overcame his addiction at the age of 48 and has since been helping others overcome their addictions. And I think that's where all of Dustin's energy lies. He's a coach at the ORG. You can go reach him there. You can reach him through here. It's an online and nonprofit community helping others with alcohol addiction and raising consciousness. And we're going to have an offer for any of you those are interested in the end of this to actually buy 2 books, one his and another one of another lady that he's working with. He lives here in San Diego, close to me. So let's kick it off with this. Look, the title of the book is truly about the lie that most people tell themselves. Um, what is the biggest lie alcohol ever told you? And when did you finally realize the truth?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. This is awesome. I'm a big fan of yours. And the truth, the biggest lie was that it's the elixir of life, that you have to have it for social events, to be fun, to be quote unquote more yourself, to take the edge off, to have, more sex, to be uh the whole everything. It's just unbelievable what has been produced by big alcohol companies and with all the advertising that's gone on there and the brainwashing that has gone on. And it's also our collective consciousness from way back when. This has been the only painkiller that's been around for tens of thousands of years until, opioids and stuff came around a couple hundred years ago. And so we have that deep down inside of us. So it's not just big alcohol, it's also us and this collective illusion that alcohol is benefits us in any way whenever the truth of the matter is that it's ethanol. Alcohol is the scientific word for alcohol is ethanol, and it is the byproduct of rotten fruits and vegetables. That's what we're consuming whenever we see alcohol by volume on the bottles and cans and everything like that. You can literally, I do it all the time, even with the best of the best wines I see out there, like Camus, Napa, all this stuff. I literally put my finger on the bottle where the 13% ethanol by volume is. And instead of alcohol by volume, ABV, I'll be like, oh my gosh, there's 13% ethanol. That is ethanol. 13% of that bottle right there has ethanol in it. Why would I consume poison and pay a ridiculous amount of money for it? It becomes like where literally once you wake up from this alcohol, this illusion of alcohol benefits you in any way, you're literally slapping your head and going, oh my God, I paid all this money. I thought I was being cool. I was just being loud. I was being obnoxious. I didn't have any filter. There's so many like ridiculous things that go along with it. But I'm laughing at it now because I can, because I see how I was trying my best. I didn't know the difference. I didn't know what this substance actually really was down to earth. And that's why the last 4 years, I did all the research and got into it and we've provided a completely different way to become either control alcohol, which I say, or become alcohol free. And it's a different way than AA is offering.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to get to those questions, and I think that one of the things that I think about is addiction of anything, right? And so let's get into kind of the psyche, because you look at you were a psychology major, you got to study yourself. Um, and if you're running around buzzed, like you're kind of half here and you're half in another world, or you're stoned, which is another kind of buzzed, or you're taking pills. But let's focus on alcohol because alcohol kills more people than any of those other substances. Okay. Cirrhosis of the liver, whatever. I think if you do your research, I think I'm hoping quoting it right, but I've heard this from physicians that literally alcohol long term is a huge killer of people. Okay. Whether it's through automobile accidents, it's jumping off cliffs, or it's whatever it is that they're doing. What was it like for you as a young guy growing up all these years? Uh, were you constantly trying to keep a buzz? And then what did you find out about your own psychology?
Yeah, I want to back you up on deaths and how many deaths there alcohol is there. So the world was completely shut down by COVID in 2020, the peak of COVID. There was 1.8 million deaths caused by COVID. So guess how many deaths were caused by alcohol that same exact year?
Well, I can't imagine. I'm going to wait for your number.
3 million. So
Oh my God.
almost double the amount of COVID deaths. If we really wanted to help the world, we would all wear masks when alcohol was around, and that would save double the amount almost. So it's a weird, it's a number that I just always am like,
And
oh,
is it just alcohol, or is it usually when they do an autopsy, is it the alcohol and the drugs combined, or is it just that was just alcohol?
yeah, they just say alcohol related. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's the whole world. So you're
So looking at your own psychology, because everybody out there is trying to kind of figure out why it is that they do it. If it's the, hey, I got to be with the end guys and I'm going to get more sex and it's going to be a better life and all these things you mentioned earlier. There's something more driving it. What's the something more? What was it for you?
yeah, for me, consciousness is everything. And I say that all the time because where our consciousness is what we are going to get. And for me, it was major fear of abandonment, like deep
Mm,
down fear of abandonment. And so Pema Chödrön is one of my favorite spiritual leaders and teachers. And she says that all depression, all anxiety, and all fear stem from a fear of death. And what she means, she doesn't mean the physical death. She means psychological, like your annihilation. You're gone. You're going to be nothing. And that was where I had to keep going, keep going, keep going, because I thought it was stemmed from my father abandoning me whenever I was a child and not being secure in myself from not having his love and proper, just upbringing. But when I got deeper into that, I was like, no, there's something more. And that was fear of like the universe abandoning me and me not being alive and part of this. And so I had to really go within and do tons of inner work and meditation and learn that the universe will never abandon me, that I am one and the same as that entity, higher power, whatever you want to call it, and that it is eternal love and light. And that's where the true joy of becoming alcohol free for me has been, is that a long, hard look in the mirror of like, why am I so anxious? Why am I so insecure? And
uh,
it was stemmed from that.
Well, the alcohol has a tendency, and many of us, we've got an ego, right? And so ego kind of edges God out. It edges out spirituality. And so the reality is you separate. You're in two different worlds, right? And so what you've found to help you is you found this one, I'm just going to call it unified world, which is really where the essence of this is through your spirituality, which you did. Now, what was the turning point for you, Dustin?
The turning point probably was when my ex-wife now asked for divorce about 5 years ago, and the abandonment fears that I had thought that I had overcome by with all my psychology research and all this stuff from my youth and everything, it just hit me square in the face of like, oh no, my kids aren't going to love me anymore. I'm a failure as a father. I'm a failure as a husband. Nobody, I'm getting older. Nobody's gonna love me, and all these like very insecure. Uh, what I love getting into the attachment style stuff, and so anxious thoughts. The ego just like fear, 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 and then to have gotten really into that and not wanted to drink any alcohol during that time whenever I was really going deep, it enabled me to heal and like really heal. And when I say heal, I mean now I have like literally where I have these joyous moments of like ecstasy, of like my skin is tingling. I know we talked before once and you were talking about how butterflies came to you and were
Right.
just like all over you and on you. These experiences that I can guarantee you, whenever you are under the influence of alcohol or pretty much any substance and you are numbing your consciousness down, what alcohol does is it actually numbs the central nervous system. And so it numbs your brain and everything. So you are low, low, low consciousness level. Numbing it feels good because, yeah, you're numb. You don't feel much at all. But whenever you remove that completely and do the work, do the personal work, do the healing, And then you get into those experiences that, Jesus, Buddha, all the saints, all the mystics, all the shamans talk about, that's out there, that you are joy, you are peace, and you are love. And that's where I'm like, oh, now we get to, because I always studied them. I studied the higher consciousness levels of human development in my degree. And I was always like really wondering, is that real? Is that for me? Can I have that? And now, because I have removed ethanol out of my blood system, for a long time, I'm getting those beautiful, beautiful spiritual experiences.
Well, the thing too is remember that we're going down a path, and as you found, you were chasing after a lot of stuff. Let's face it, you were highly successful. You had a PhD, an investor, an entrepreneur. Yet the alcohol still took hold of your life, and it was because of, you said, abandonment issues, all of these things that were going on, and you utilized that substance to kind of numb and separate. So, what do you think keeps so many high achieving people trapped in this destructive drinking habit that they've got? Or,
Yeah.
I mean, look, let's face it, we're talking about addiction, period, here, but we're going to stay on alcohol.
Yeah. So, big thing for me with that is, of course, there's tons of people in this world, on this planet right now, who are very addicted to alcohol. And there's mild level addiction, there's medium, and then there's the heavy. The 90% of people who are addicted to alcohol are not the ones, they're not the ones that are going under this kitchen sink and grabbing a bottle in the morning just to get by. And they're not, shaking all day and all this. Those are the ones we think of, like the real heavy addicted people. So what I'm really talking about, as well as those, is the other 90%, which I was in. And you have to be so careful, because I was extremely high achieving. Even at the end, whenever I was decided to quit, I was like, this I just feel gross. I feel blah. I don't, I'm not being present with my kids and all this stuff. And so the thing that I really, really want to point out is, out addiction is never stagnant. You're not just like, oh, you're cruising and it's gonna be okay. You're either getting worse or you're getting better. And
No,
so you have to be so careful. This is a 100% addictive substance that anyone can get addicted to and will get addicted to once enough is consumed. And so the whole idea that it's only for a certain class of people that become what, I don't use the word alcoholic at all. I think it's addicted. You're either addicted to alcohol or you're not. You're just like someone who used to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. We don't call them cigarette-aholics anymore, and we don't label them for the rest of their lives. They're like, no, I used to smoke cigarettes. I think they're disgusting now. I think they're gross. That's the exact same thing that happens with our program, is that you're not in recovery for the rest of your life. You're not an alcoholic. You're not all these labels. No, you used to be addicted to alcohol. Then you become a joyous alcohol-free person, or a joyous person who controls alcohol and only has a few once a week to, minor drinking. So it's that.
I
Yeah.
like that distinction. In other words, why put a label on something you're not anymore when you've overcome it? And I think that's an important distinction between what you and your partner are doing here, right? And so I don't think, I mean, I know there's AA. I talked to the guy I talked to today, David Greer, was going to have his 16th birthday party at AA. They have these parties that they have for people. And I have nothing against AA or what they're doing or how they're doing it, because it's helping people as well, and you guys are as well. Now look, some of the things that happens in this usually happens in alcoholic relationships. One person is usually stronger, or meaning they have no addiction. The other person is now using alcohol. And in your case with your wife, includes some very painful moments of your relationship, to the point where she said, "Hey, look, I'm done. This is over. You either quit or I leave," or whatever it was. What's the hardest part it was for writing this book for you about that?
Yeah, I want to touch real quick on the AA thing. My family has been AA members. I love them tremendously. there is no competition in learning how to control alcohol or become alcohol free. Whatever you have to do, if you need to go into a room full of strangers and stand up and say, I'm an alcoholic, and then label yourself as that for the rest of your life and say you're in recovery, whatever it is, if you have to jump off a roof and break an arm to do it, I don't care. It's fine. Then there's a Zen saying, and there's as many ways to the one as there are people on the planet. And that's the same thing with becoming alcohol free or learning to control alcohol. You are your own path. You are your own way. And we're just offering a different, really good, easier way. That's what we're seeing is like a magic pill for people between Annie Grace's book and my book. And we've got the proof to back it up. And I'm just so excited about that.
And her book is called This Naked Mind,
Correct.
by Annie Grace. And so, you know, but going back to writing these painful moments for a second, what was the hardest part for you in writing this book?
The hardest part was just being vulnerable at the beginning. You know, men, especially, I think we're just taught that you can have two emotions. You can either be kind of like smiling a little bit or pissed off. You know, we're either angry or just kind of like a little bit of showing, okay, we're okay, right? So
Mhm.
I had to just really get into all of my vulnerability and emotions and just literally throw up my whole truth in the book, and it was like a journaling process for me. And so I mean, I just let it all out. I talk about stuff that I had never talked about with anybody. And then once it was like time to publish, the publisher was like, you really want to do this? I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's let it out there. And it was so freeing. It's like, you know what? Here's me, here's my past, here's what I did. And then it's this release, it's this beautiful energy of like, take it or leave it, universe. And the universe responded with beauty and joy and love and just total unconditional acceptance.
Well, I think what's important for the listeners and they're hearing you, Dustin, is that you're not putting on a show. You're not fake. This is Dustin. Dustin has changed. This isn't the way Dustin always was, but this is the way Dustin is now, and he's left the alcohol behind. So, what are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about becoming alcohol free?
And okay, so because I went through it so much, that you're scared. You have tons of fear that you're going to lose your friends, your spouse or your partner that you're drinking with usually because that's part of the whole, dynamic. And you just think that this life, there's really no fun out there without it. And that is the biggest lie. And the biggest, it's just this completely irrational fear that is out there. The life that I live, I look back at my life when I was drinking and the life that I live now, and I have such meaningful friends and family and conversations compared to when I was just surface and numbing and hey, how about those Chicago Bears? You know, as guys, we talk about the sports and this and that. Now I'm having these real conversations with men about their feelings, about their relationships with their spouses. And it's this intimacy that I didn't even come close to when I was drinking. And so it's just an overall much higher level of consciousness that you're in. And yeah, it's going to take some time to transition. And that's what the book's all about is like how to do that and make it easy on people in that transition.
Well, I think men, young men, middle-aged men, older men, you can grow up in this world around being transactional, right? And so what happens, it's about the next deal. Let's face it, you were a guy who was doing deals all the time. You're doing real estate deals, you were doing some kind of deal, right? And we get it's almost like a scorecard for guys, right? And what goes along with that scorecard frequently is getting together with the guys and drinking over the deal that they did or the deal they're going to talk about or whatever. And I say that because I lived that life myself for a while and not the drinking, but just the bolstering about, hey, what'd you do today? And, how much money did you make? And all that kind of stuff, right? Because that is what the guys talk about frequently. So, one of the things I want to do is you call breaking the cycle and the practical steps, and you outline a detox timeline in your book, helping people understand the first days, weeks, and months of going alcohol free. What are some of the biggest challenges or hurdles people should be prepared for when going through that detox timeline that you've got in the book?
Yeah, I'll kind of relate both of what you're talking about and also that too together because peer pressure. Oh my goodness. Like
Yeah.
it is like, oh, even I'm older and I'm like the amount of peer pressure still. I haven't drank in 5 years and I go out to places and they're like, why aren't you drinking? Come on. And da, 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 da. And I'm
Mm.
like, oh my God, guys, we're still doing this. Like,
Have you been to my website lately?
yeah, yeah. Do you know who I am? Anyway, but I still get it. So I understand, and I'm like playing golf or like whatever. I'm at, bachelor parties, going to
Right,
Vegas, and I'm doing my whole
right.
thing, and I do it all now. But there's tips and how to do this. But the peer pressure, and I like we said in the intro, I vowed to never ever drink alcohol when I was like 7, 8 years old, because of what I saw that it did to my family, to everybody around me. I was just like, this is disgusting. This is stupid. Why would anybody do this? Then you get older and everybody's doing it, and the peer pressure at age 15 was unbelievable. I mean, it was just like I look at the people who did not drink in high school as like superpower people. I'm like, whatever they had going on, because there was no way.
Well, I would say I was one of those. We called it depravity. You know what depravity is? You can actually learn a lot from depravity, meaning depriving yourself of something to force yourself to do something else. I was never a guy that drank. I don't still to this day I don't drink. If I have a beer once a year, that's a lot, right? So and I never did, and I never had people used to call them a vice. Call it whatever you want. My vice was more like going down to the beach or riding my bicycle or doing something physical that made me feel a lot better than I knew alcohol because alcohol really never made me feel very good. I have to admit that. Now, look, you've teamed up with Annie Grace. Annie Grace is kind of a real, oh, what do you call it? Kingpin in this area. So, and her book is called The Naked Mind, and people will put a link to that website as well. Let's talk about your partnership with Annie. This is kind of a bold, unprecedented move in addiction recovery. Um, what inspired you both to offer this guarantee that you're offering? And you can tell our listeners what that is, that people will gain control over drinking or they're going to get their money back. Now, when you say money back, the whole investment, I think, is $69 or something like that.
Yeah, it's around $60. So
So it's like maybe 2 drinks at the bar somewhere or
yeah,
3.
nowadays, yeah, South Beach, Miami, yeah, 2 drinks. There you go.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So talk to us about the offer, what you're doing with Annie, and what you guys are saying you're kind of promising people.
Yeah, so this is my favorite part. It just happened, and I'm so happy to be announcing it, and with you, the first one. So, what we're doing is Annie has sold millions of copies of her book, This Naked Mind, and so she knows how good it is and how many people it's helped. It is what woke me up from my alcohol addiction. So she has this female writing style, of course, because she's female, and it really helps like females, and it helps males as well. But I have this same exact approach that she does, and it's this way of hitting both males and females together, and then the brain, you know how that works too with masculinity, feminine, and so I've sold now 2,500. We've talked to them, and they're all like, "Yep, I've learned to control it. I'm good to go," or they become alcohol free. So what we now are like, wait a minute, we can guarantee that people will, with combination of if they read my book and Annie's book, and then also listen to the audibles both, because what we're doing is we're deprogramming, we're un
Programming
brain
subconscious.
yeah, we're unbrainwashing. The whole thing is you've got this one side of your brain saying, you know that alcohol is bad for you. You you've seen myself dance on videos at the wedding. So, no, so you know that it's bad, right? And then the other part is like, oh, but I need it, I want it, and all this stuff. So there's this cognitive dissonance happening, with two things going on in your head. What we're doing is making your entire consciousness agree that alcohol is ethanol, that it is poison, and that you are absolutely harming yourself, and there's no benefit whatsoever. You are so much joy and so much peace without it, right? And so that's the whole process, but it takes a while. By the time somebody's 40 years old, just TV ads alone, they've seen 40,000 of how good alcohol is, how awesome, how sexy you are, how fun it is, everything like that. Not to mention billboards, not to mention I'm at the beach the other day right by where you are with my kids, and I'm digging in the sand. I see Coors Light ad fly over with the plane. I'm like, it's amazing how many times we've been barraged with how ethanol benefits our life. And so that's what this is all about, is we're reframing and rewiring people's minds with these books. And I love her title is, the
So
naked mind.
this is your book. Everybody's
Yeah.
we're gonna put a link to this, okay, for everybody. Annie's book, we'll put a link to that as well. And then you have a place on the website where people can click the boxes, right, and sign up for this. So we'll put a link to that. Now, so why did you and Annie, after you came together, after all these different programs for Al-Anon and alcoholism and AA and all that, believe you have the magic pill? If I listen to an audio and I read 2 books and I go, okay, I've now reprogrammed through listening to this audio and reading these books, that you think a huge percentage of them are going to stop.
Yeah, we already know. We don't think. We know. That's why we're not putting this out, because we don't know.
Okay.
So yeah, it looks like 95% of the people who go through this and do what we're talking about, just reading the books and listening to Audible, for, like you're saying, only $60 total. It's amazing. It's like this miracle drug. And so the reason that I think that it's working so well is because what we are doing is changing people's consciousness. And we are putting the blame on ethanol, whereas AA has this whole philosophy that the person is the issue. Okay. And there's only a certain class of people that can become addicted to alcohol. And so what we've realized with the science now is that alcohol, ethanol, is a 100% addictive substance. And you have to treat it so carefully, just like meth, cigarette, tobacco, heroin, all the major addictive drugs. This is one of the most highly addictive drugs as well. Certain people get addicted different rates, and that's just, there's all kinds of reasons for that. But the main point is you cannot control, you cannot hold your alcohol or hold your liquor, like people love to say. I don't care where you're from. I don't care if you're the biggest, roughest New Zealand rugby player ever. If you drink if you consume enough ethanol, you will become addicted, period.
Well, so look, one of the things that people have done in the past is they substitute something else for the alcohol. And in many cases, people would gain weight by substituting sugar, any kind of sugar, cookies, candy, whatever it might have been, right? Because you'd see these people at AA and there would be this substitute. Are you saying that if people go through this program, they virtually could give this up psychologically by reprogramming and not have to put a substitute in their mouth?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
What you're doing is we're making it where ethanol becomes disgusting. We're making it where cigarettes, just like my mother, who was addicted to cigarettes back in the 70s, now she sees them as disgusting. She's like, oh my
Mhm.
God, I can't believe I ever smoked those. I stunk.
Right.
Da, 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 da. When she was smoking them, she thought she looked cool. She was brainwashed. The TV ads, everybody was like, oh, you look cool, you look sexy, all this stuff. We're having this cigarette moment now with alcohol, that it's now becoming disgusting. In the future, down the road, our future generations are going to look back and be like, what? You guys used to sit in bars all day and watch football and just drink ethanol? That is so gross. Why would you do that? Right. So that's what we're doing now with cigarettes. We're like, oh my God, you guys used to just sit around in your offices and smoke all day? That is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. And it's so true. You just, if you can just flash forward a few years, and we're not talking very long. Everybody's like, oh, Dustin, you're like part of this thing that's like a dream life and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, wait, you just wait. Consciousness, man, once you start having the shift, it happens quick.
It's interesting because I didn't do this intentionally, but I think it was last night an ad came up for whiskey, and it was really an odd ad. It was kind of like a guy holding a new kind of whiskey or whatever, and the guy interrupting him and saying, "Well, the punchline for this whiskey is da 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 da," right? And we're talking whiskey, which is a pretty hardcore, right? But like when you go to all of these sporting events, I mean, let's just look at the Super Bowl just happened, and the ads that played for, I don't care if it was food or alcohol, beer, wine coming out of those containers, not out of bottles, right? We used to have them in the, what do you call it? They were in those cardboard containers for a while, right? But there's just so much money spent on it. You believe that your program is going to get people to ignore all of that brainwashing?
Yeah, so the thing that I like to do, there's two things that go with that is number one, you can go to alcoholfreerevolution.org and you can sign up for ban alcohol advertising, just like cigarettes. Yeah, we're doing a whole push and we're gonna go for, you gotta have, I think it's 200,000 signatures to really get the it within like 90 days.
I think those guys are gonna have hitmen out after you.
Exactly. I know too. I'm serious. It's serious.
You better adjust. There's too many people making a lot of money.
Oh man, trillion. We're not talking about 100 million. We're talking trillion. It's the largest market in the world. It's like pharmaceuticals and alcohol. Those two, right?
I know.
So yeah, no. And then
That's
Canada just put. They're the ones that put the cancer warning label bottles.
right.
They did it.
Well, sir, they pulled it off the shelf. They pulled
Yes.
our alcohol off of their shelf.
Yeah. So what happened was this little town put the cancer warning labels on and they saw how dramatic it went down with the sales. And so the big alcohol came in there and said, we are going to sue your butts and throw everything we have at you guys if you don't do this and take those off of there now. And so it's, yeah, we're joking, but I'm serious. There's seriously, once we become big enough, there will be, I guarantee you there'll be threats and stuff. And I'm like, bring it on. Let's go.
Okay, right. All right. Dustin, you heard that. Everybody heard that, right? So, hey, look, one of the things I remember as a young man, I used to go travel to Europe, I think 3 or 4 times, and I had friends in Sweden. When I was in Sweden, you could only buy alcohol through a store that was separately licensed, right? You couldn't just go down to like a 7-Eleven or in a grocery store and buy alcohol. It was a separate store for alcohol. Now, the highest rate of alcoholism, because the population spent most of their time in darkness in winter, was in Sweden and in Finland, but Sweden in particular had a pretty tough time. And do you ever see it going where we end up just having a store for just alcohol where it's confined to one spot and you've got to actually show how much you've purchased? Because that's what they were doing. They were controlling how much a person had bought when they went in with their ID card. So that's one of the ways they were trying to control the alcohol addiction in the country.
Yeah, my whole push is look, I'm a free loving American and let people do what they want to do. I have no problem. It's kind of like cigarettes. Like, let's ban the cigarettes, let's stop the brainwashing. But if you become an adult and you want to smoke, like I still smoke a like cigar once every 3 months, what have you, like a nice cigar, whatever. I want to have that option, you know? And so people, if they need that option and want to do that, that's their choice. And so this isn't like my whole thing with this is just remove the ethanol, keep living your life just like you're living it. But there's beautiful new alcohol-free beers, wine, tequila, whiskey, gin that you won't know the difference at all. Like if you trade those out and you have them, you'll be like, I can't tell. But what the difference is,
Those have the buzz.
ethanol, right? The ethanol is not there. You will not numb your consciousness down. You will
Yeah.
stay at a high level of consciousness. you will not be an idiot in the crowd and be obnoxious and say stupid things to women or do really bad. Wake up next to a guy who you didn't know who well they are.
I would say this too, Dustin, or kill somebody on your way home.
Yeah, I mean the levels, right?
Yeah, let's be truthful about it.
Yeah.
That's really a major issue in this country. So look, you're talking to a lot of listeners today. For all of the listeners, you're going to either go to Dustin-Dunbar, DUNBAR.com, or you're going to go to their website called thealcoholfreerevolution.org. That's the other place you can learn about and you can purchase what he was just talking about because it's right there. The offer up, and they also have coaching and guru videos. And I want everybody to take a look at those. Now, Dustin, if somebody out there today is listening and they're on the fence about reading your book or joining your program or your group, what do you want to tell them?
Timing is everything. You do you. I'm not pressuring anybody to do anything. Hey, if you feel like coming and being part of this, awesome. I'm retired. I'm just doing this to help people out and enjoying it. It gives my life meaning. I don't want the biggest thing for this for me of why I'm doing this is the 7-year-old inside of me went through a lot of pain and a lot of stuff, misery, because I watched my grandfather and father just be miserable people when they were on this substance. And then I saw them outside of that without the substance, and they were really good men, right? And I'm like, the only difference in these guys being horrible monsters and not is this ethanol. And so the whole point of all this is to help kids, not have to deal with that. So, but come if you want, and then once the pain becomes enough and the hangovers and the ridiculousness and the money, and you'll come at some point.
Well, here's the book, everybody. You're doing great, and other lies alcohol told me. And here's a statement from Annie Grace on the back. Dustin's story is relatable, hilarious, and encouraging. This book will give you the courage to break free from alcohol and live a fuller, happier life. So I would say, everybody, go get a copy of this book. Go to his website. We'll put a link to Amazon to get the book. If you want, you can buy, I think there's an offer for buying 2 copies of the book at Dustin's website as well. So if you know somebody, hand one out to somebody else and you're going to get a little bit of a discount because there's probably a lot of people in your inner circle, if this is what you're doing, that are doing the same thing. So you might want to start a little community of people where we're all going to go alcohol free. And Dustin, I raise my toast of water to you and say, thank you, dude, for what you're doing, for the work you're doing, and you and Annie are doing, and what you put together to help so many people become alcohol free. It's really fantastic what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, let's grab lunch around here sometime soon.
We will do that. And namaste to you, my friend.
Namaste.
All that spiritual stuff that you're getting and all the highs you're getting from not alcohol, but from your connection with a higher source, which is telling you don't drink alcohol.
Correct.
So that's awesome. Pleasure having you on Inside Personal Growth. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.